Hi and welcome to Commoner's Craft. Today I'm going to show you how to make a desert building with cardboard and sand, so no foam at all. Let's take a look at how I made it. I start by cutting out the base for the building from regular single corrugated cardboard. I'm going to make the walls 2 layers, so it will give it more thickness. Just make sure to cut the inner piece in 2, so you'll have a base to put the building floor on, just like this. In my cardboard buildings I always make sort of a lip on the smaller pieces, which makes it easier to attach it to the longer walls. When you have all your parts cut out, you can start gluing the 2 layers together and then attaching them to each other. You could use hot glue for this, but I prefer a combination of super glue and PVA glue. It's less messy and leaves no strings like hot glue does, but use whatever you enjoy working with the most. I made the lip accidentally too long, so don't make the same mistake as me. Now I can glue all the upper parts of the inner walls in place with PVA. I wanted to have a playable roof, so I needed some way for miniatures to be able to reach it. I'm going to make a simple staircase and attach it to the side. The steps are not realistic in height and width at all, but I make terrain for use in game, so playability is the most important factor for me. Glue was used to attach the skeleton of the staircase in a quick way, and then some square cardboard pieces were attached to fill up the gaps. Never forget to test your builds out for playability, it's very important. Some more hot glue was used to enforce the corners. To get the iconic desert building look, we'll have to attach some wooden beams to the side. I used chopsticks for this, cut into 2 cm parts and attached them to the building. It's a very nice shape for terrain crafting, so I advise you to keep all that usable trash and stop it from ending up in a landfill. You don't have to measure this if you prefer a more random look, just adjust it to your personal preference. To get a good size for the door, use a miniature to get the right height. Cut the door out completely. I'm going to add a backing for it later. To mark out where I'd like to cut out the windows, I made a template from cardstock. This way I don't have to measure it out 4 times and I get a uniform result. Now we'll have to add something behind the windows and door. Just cut out some rectangles from cardstock and stick them on the inside. It's better to make them too large, you won't see it anyway. The open corrugation of the cardboard is very ugly, so we'll have to cover it up. I prefer to do this with some strips of very thin cardstock cut to size, and I stick them on with hot glue. I stick it on the corners as well, and the inside of the door and windows. The plan is to glue sand all over the building to give it more texture, so you won't see this anyway. The thinner gaps were filled with hot glue, it's quick and easy. And also some PVA glue. I wanted to give the roof a wooden floor, and I used coffee stir sticks to achieve this look. I don't bother cutting the sticks to smaller sizes, I just add long single planks next to each other, but definitely do if you care. I had to stop halfway to put some weight on the sticks. They were bending up because the cardboard beneath was a little bit bent. For the door hole I wanted some sort of curtain instead of a door, and I used some thicker paper, crunched up and drenched in watered down PVA glue. To make it fit you'll have to push it in place with a stick, but it's going to be all mushy from the glue so it's not hard. Now everything is finished and we can start adding the sand all over the building. I use PVA glue, water it down with my brush to help it spread out more, and add sand on the top. I would advise you to do this in parts, because otherwise the glue will dry before you've reached the spot. You'll be making a mess, so put something beneath your workplace to collect all the sand. You can dump the excess back into your container, so don't waste anything. I primed the building with a grey spray paint. It was empty before I managed to spray everything, so I used white for the rest. You could do this with a brush and cheap acrylic paint as well, this is just faster. Now we can finally start painting, and I'm going to start with the wood. Like in the previous video, I like to paint my wood with a contrast paint, over grey or white. It looks very good for not a lot of effort. The paint I use is called Wildwood and it's from Games Workshop. For the walls of the building I use a sand colored paint. Just make sure you water it down enough to make it easier to paint such a textured surface. The cloth was painted with a crimson red color. A couple coats were applied to get good coverage. I paint the wood with the same recipe as the previous video, so now I dry brush it with a beige color. Applied a very watered down Agrax earthshade on the walls to tone it down and make it darker. I know there are a lot of cheaper ways to make homemade washes, but I really don't like the new Agrax earthshade and I'm just finishing this pot. The wash I added to the cloth is mid brown from Army Painter and just add it straight from the pot. When you dry brush the wood it leaves a dusty look, and to get rid of that I add some brown reddish sepia ink thinned down with water. It gives it more warmth as well. This step is optional, but it gives it more visual interest to your piece. I add very thin seraphim sepia from Games Workshop around all the wooden beams, the windows, the door, and all the corners of the building and the stairs as well. The windows are painted with 2 coats of a pure black. And the very last step is to highlight the cloth by mixing in lighter and lighter shades of red into the original crimson color. This step is kinda optional, and leaving the cloth as is perfectly fine. And it's all done. A very cool looking desert building for your Arabian themed Dungeons & Dragons campaigns, or maybe a Rodrim town for the Middle Earth strategy battle game. It's very easy to make and costs almost nothing. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe for more cheap and easy builds. Take care.